the season finale in Abu Dhabi, and he's aiming to do it all again as we kick off 2025.
It's going to be a tough afternoon, though. It's going to be so slippery out there. They'll be looking for the white lines. There's some bicycle lanes right out the back there as well that are pretty treacherous, and a bit of standing water down at turn 5. The safety car has left the grid, which suggests that it's not going to be a safety car start. They are all on intermediate tyres, including those in the pit lane. You only really need the wets if there's a lot of standing water, big puddles. But otherwise, you want more rubber on the track, which the intermediates give you. They do exactly what they say on the tin. It's what they call the land to sea ratio, the rubber versus the grooves, as it were. Although I'm hearing that Lance Stroll is on wet tyres. It's not what it says here on the computer, but we have seen it on the camera. So that seems as if that's not absolutely right. Anyway, what the front runners will, by the sounds of it, be on the intermediate tyre, which is what you want.
Tricky, greasy, slippery conditions. 6 rookies. First Grand Prix in history to feature 4 drivers under the age of 21. There's one word that springs to mind in my mind, and that's kerfuffle. We could get a lot of that today.
Indeed, we could. And the problem here is if you lock a brake and run wide, the curbs, and Kimi Antonelli damaged the underneath of his car yesterday on the curbs, the gravel traps, and the walls, they will all damage your car. You can scamper through down at turn 3, and there's a little bit of a tarmac service road, but to snatch a brake is going to be so easy for them going into these braking zones.
Last person I remember scampering at turn 3 was you, running back to get your T-car that year. You have accidents here, you have big accidents here. And there is Lando Norris leading the cars off on the formation lap, and already, Martin, you can see the visibility is not exactly perfect.
No, it's difficult, but I'm sure McLaren would have preferred a rolling start behind a safety car or something, because it takes away the peril for them of heading down into the first corner and to an extent, the lottery of getting away well in these conditions.
So, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri alongside each other on the front row at a team who say their drivers are free to race and race each other, but how much caution has to go with that on a day like today?
They'll just be told you must not run into each other. We got somebody off already.
We have already one of the racing bulls, and that is Isaac Hadjar, who looks like he's trying to get the car into gear at the very least.
Got a broken rear wing, I think.
He has. Look at the angle of that rear wing. It's at 45 degrees, if my maths is correct, and that is down at turn 2.
That might delay the start. That's almost certainly going to delay the start, isn't it?
Right, so he backed off to then floor it to put some heat into his tyres, and this is not a day to be doing that.
He was a bit unlucky there. He sort of anti-locked on him, and that just lit the rear up, didn't it? And when the battery pack kicks in as well, you've got a huge amount of torque through it's only rear wheel drive, no traction control on these cars, or ABS like you'd have on your road cars. And well, they're called rookies for a reason, aren't they?
They are. So if it's likely to be a delayed start, is Isaac Hadjar out of it completely now? Can they get his car back and do a pit lane start?
Not with that rear wing, Crofty. No, that's a big job to change that, and that's good night. Thank you, sadly, for him.
So it'll be 5 rookies on the grid then, or 5 rookies in this race. Isaac Hadjar out before we even get going, and the cars making their way onto the main straight now to line up again, whilst Isaac Hadjar just walks away, and we have got an official aborted start. So I think that means the gazebos and the umbilical cords and all the paraphernalia will be able to come back onto the grid again, rather than a delayed start. Or is it aborted? Are they just going to hold them there for a few minutes, standing? Let's just wait and see how race control play this one. Because if the marshals can move the car away quickly, we don't need look, engine off, aborted starts. Everyone's going to come piling back onto the grid again, because there's no way they can get the car moved in time to avoid a lengthy delay.
It has to be an aborted start. It can't be a delayed start. So yeah, it's switch off, and talk about having your nerves rattled, especially for those starting their first ever Grand Prix, having to sort of go and do another formation lap. This is this is where you keep your pulse under control. Just stay focused and do what you're good at.
Right then, everyone, we've waited 98 days since the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. A few minutes more, hopefully won't be too much for you. I don't know about you, but I am itching to get going with this season, and I'm sure the drivers are too. A word on Isaac Hadjar, because that's just the worst possible way to make your entry into Formula One.
Yeah, he was just trying to get a bit of temperature, wasn't he? And a bit too much torque application, throttle. He's crying his eyes out, I suspect. And, you know, it's a lifelong commitment they've done through karting, junior racing, the family, sacrifices. And he's a Formula One driver, and boom, he's had a very silly mistake. And yeah, it just lit. I think his left rear was on the white line, and it just snapped on him. His eyes are wide open because he can see the barriers coming up. And I think he just lit the back up with on the white line, and that just shows you how greasy it is out there.
We are going to have the formation lap in 10.5 minutes time. As Isaac Hadjar still there and still crying. If you remember, his last race on a Formula One weekend was the F2 finale last season, where he stalled on the start, cost him a chance of winning that Formula 2 title. I did ask him in the winter, you know, does he think about that? He went, no, I didn't get into this sport to stick in Formula 2. I got into this sport to get to Formula 1, and being in Formula 1 will eradicate any memories of that.
It's what's sunset tonight. I think it's 7:39, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got plenty of time. It's only 3:05 in the afternoon, but it's one of those where you start thinking about, with the sort of chaos we might get yet today, you start thinking about, well, the race can only take place over 3 hours now. It's limited right. Once it gets going to 3 hours anyway, so we should be all right.
It's a 3-hour big window and a 2-hour race window within that big window. If that doesn't make any sense, just stick with us. We'll keep you posted. Karun Chandok is at Sky Race Control, who rushed over here expecting to sit and have a bit of a lazy 5 minutes while the race got underway. And then all of a sudden, there's a racing balls in the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good afternoon, Crofty. Good afternoon, everyone. I've just been listening on the radio, and tellingly, when Isaac Hadjar crashed, there was lots of communication from the pit wall to him, but nothing going back. You know, you could see, as Martin was saying, he's obviously absolutely devastated with what's happened. The team were trying to talk him through, you know, whether you could restart or not, but yeah, nothing coming back from him. A lot coming back from other drivers, reporting on conditions being very slippery, particularly on the white lines from turn 6 all the way to turn 11, where those bicycle lanes are, all those white lines you've got. We had Lewis Hamilton say we're getting snaps of oversteer on the white lines. We can hear Kimi Antonelli and Oscar Piastri, Crofty, saying the visibility not great. So I wonder, as you suspected, whether they might do 2 or 3 laps under the safety car to clear some of the water and maybe a standing start.
One thing in terms of drying that we have got in our favour is the wind, and it is strong and it is gusting around Albert Park. And if you just saw a shot of the top of the Paddock Club above the garages here, the flags were blowing away from the track. It's a crosswinds from left to right as you look down the main straight. So when you get into turn 1, it becomes a tailwind, Martin.
Yeah, and it's the gusting, though, that's going to really catch the drivers out, especially on a circuit like this, where if there's a gap between 2 grandstands, for example, and the catch fencing, and you have to get a crosswind when the car's loaded, and there is one very, very distraught young man. That's sad. Nobody wants to see that.
Not at all. Still with his crash helmet on and his hands device, and slowly trudging his way back to his team hospitality unit. The man who has, well, 4 FP1 appearances, including 1 for Racing Bulls in Mexico 2023, the 12th driver to make his debut with his team, and now getting consoled there from Anthony Hamilton, who wished all drivers the best of luck in today's race, and who knows a thing or two about being there to support somebody in a crash helmet. He's done it for Lewis for his entire career, and I think that's the mark of Anthony Hamilton there, one of the first people on the scene to go over and say, come on, you've got a long career ahead of you. you'll forget about this one day. But that's good support from Anthony there, and it's just horrendous luck for Isaac Hadjar.
And he's been so fast, hasn't he, through practice, hasn't he? Put it 11th on the grid, which is a very good effort. So he probably fancied his chances of perhaps scoring a point or two on his debut. This is a day that's going to be very hard to survive as a Formula One driver.
So it's a day for opportunities. Rain always presents that. Contrast Isaac Hadjar at the moment with the emotions of Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who, when speaking to Martin on the grid, could not have looked more happy and cheery at what was coming his way for this race. First Italian driver for some time in Formula One. And Zak Brown, the CEO at McLaren, is listening in and joining us from the McLaren pit wall. Zak, great to have you with us. Hope you got your wet weather gear on. Oh, you have, good, on the pit wall. What are your drivers saying about conditions and about the start of this race?
Visibility is still not great. It's very cold, slippery, so you see Car 1 driver out, which is tricky. So hopefully we'll get the race started with a clean start here in the next 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, so there's no sign really of a safety car start at all, Zach, is there? This is going to be a regular Grand Prix start.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be the case. So that's what we're anticipating.
I'm sure you would have preferred different conditions today, Zach, but you've got full faith and full trust in your two drivers. What were the instructions in the briefing this morning to both of them?
Go race, have fun.
In 7 minutes, we expect Class 1
go race,
lasting
have fun,
for 5
home
minutes.
could be completely different things,
Then
right?
there will be a 5-minute gap.
As long as they
and
follow
then
those
10
three
minutes
instructions,
of
we should
Class
have a
1
good show we put on today. So they know what they're doing. These conditions are obviously tricky, so we'll just have to adapt as we see the race plays out.
Just hearing in the background, Zach, Ferrari telling their drivers that they're expecting rain in 5 minutes time, Class 1, whatever that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it sounds like a lot of rain to me.
Yeah, looks like there's some more rain coming. I don't think it'll get as bad as it was earlier, but also given how cold it is windy, which will help dry the track, but countered by how cold it is, so we'll see.
Thanks ever so much, Zach. Great to have you with us, and I'm sure we'll be back with you in a little while. Jack Doohan starting down in 14th. A lot of focus, of course, on Oscar Piastri here in Melbourne. It's his hometown, but Jack from the Gold Coast, very much an Australian hero, and he's got plenty of supporters here too, as we can see in the grandstands. Ted Kravitz, where are you at the moment?
Hello Crofty, hello Martin, everybody. I'm in the pit lane just by Mercedes, actually, as it happens, and just been watching all the teams doing their thing. By the way, you know I love a weather page. The FIA's weather system denotes Class 1 as drizzle, getting to a bit annoyingly light, but still light, but enough to need a coat, potentially an umbrella. That's what Class 1 is. You don't want Class 3 or 4, Crofty.
Oh, no.
Oh, and Class 5 will stop the race. Anyway, a lot of people have been doing different things. I've seen a gurney flap. You know how I love a gurney flap?
Oh, yes.
A little bit of carbon fibre that the teams can fit to the rear wing. I've seen one of them ran out to the cars.
Who was putting that on where?
It was one of the Aston Martins. And talking of Aston Martin, Lance Stroll, regretting, it seems, his decision to start on being the only person to start on full wets. I've seen a set of intermediates go out to Stroll's car. So it looks like he is going to be in step with everybody else.
They're out of Parc Fermé now, if you think
Yes,
about it.
they are.
So they can just slide a gurney. It's a little right-angle piece that energizes the rear wing, gives you more downforce, basically. So somebody's got their thinking cap on.
Well, this is where you can make just a little magical. And there is, it's always magical at the start of the season, but the opportunities today for something to happen a little out of the ordinary should not be understated.
It's probably better these days. I'm just imagining back in the day getting the hairdryer job from Ken Tyrrell out the back of the, well, wouldn't have been hospitality back then, been a caravan or something, but if you'd have done that, or Frank Williams or Sir Patrick Head, they wouldn't be giving you a hug, I can tell you. But hey, this is the new world, isn't it? And it is a nice touch.
It certainly is. They were also playing on the Tannoy, Martin. I don't know if you caught it. The track "Shut Up and Drive," which I thought was very fitting for the time now for the talking to stop and the driving to start. And we've had to wait an extra 15 minutes or so. But we're on a 30-second countdown now as the tyre blankets come off to the start of formation lap number 2. Intermediate tyres on, I would imagine, every single car. They won't really want to be on the wets, even though Pirelli have brought in for this season a brand new wet weather tyre that they hope that can be raced in and won't overheat quite so much. We've had in recent years a wet tyre really just being for behind the safety car. Yeah,
but you need the coolant of the rain to use the full wet tyre, because the tread blocks just overheat and disintegrate basically, which is why you need the much shallower channels of the Inter.
Everyone's got their phones trained on the track, and that's it. I'd like to see the track at the moment and see what the spray is like, because it actually looked a little bit better than it was when we went on the formation lap for the first time around. Let's just see the cars. There's Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon getting through turn 1. Lando Norris on pole with Oscar Piastri following closely from him. And the spray, I mean, it's there, but it doesn't look half as bad.
No, the spray's fine, I think. Under the canopy of the trees there, as you can see, as we head into autumn here, down here, that's the sort of place that stays wetter longer. But one of our briefings this morning, they were talking all about slick tyres in the race, weren't they? So clearly I think it's wetter than some teams expected through the day.
See how it goes in 57 laps time. Karun, to you at race control.
Yeah, really interesting to be hearing Riccardo Adami talking to Lewis Hamilton for the first time, Crofty, who's getting quite a bit of coaching about clutch position, clutch procedures, because obviously very different for him with the Ferrari car, Ferrari power unit for the first time. So yeah, quite a bit of chat before they set off on this formation lap.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Karun. Lewis Hamilton is Isaac Hadjer's, or is Isaac Hadjer's hero. Isaac Hadjer not in this race. Only 19 cars will start this Australian Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I hope they're not complaining about those cycle lanes like a London cabbie later on, where they've got it absolutely lit up full power, but you can see them from 6 through to turn 9. It's a very, very long way, and you'd think you'd imagine it as a straight, but in these conditions it won't be.
So 11 years ago today, we started this hybrid era of the Turbo V6s at the 2014 Australian Grand Prix. We start the final season of these current engines before it's all switch around for 2026, and cars that will look very different, engines that will behave very different, and fuels that will be very, very different as well. It's the 75th anniversary of Formula One, the last year of this hybrid era, and who knows what it is going to bring us. This is the man that won 12 months ago, or this last year, around Albert Park. Carlos Sainz driving now for Williams. Only 2 teams have kept their same driver lineup from last season, and one of them is McLaren, and both of their drivers are on the front row.
Yeah, who wants to get punchy down into turn 1? Because I imagine several people will be quite tense and cautious on the brakes, and others might just be sailing in there. And again, those that start in the pit lane are allowed to do the formation lap now, but then have to peel back in to the pit lane and take the start down there once the pack has gone through. And
those two are Liam Lawson in the Red Bull and Ollie Behrman in the Haas. There'll be 17 drivers on the grid. Ray, who last month was at the Oscars, has come into Oscars' backyard to cheer on the Hamilton for this weekend. She's part of Team LH as he makes his Ferrari debut, and the 75th anniversary season of Formula One It's lights out and away we go. And it's Lando Norris tiptoeing away from the start. Max Verstappen getting very keen with a pole sitter. Into turn one we go. Norris is ahead of Piastri. Verstappen following on. Then comes George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, who looks like he has Alex Albon for company, trying to go round the outside, and Albon stays ahead of Hamilton. Into turn three we go. Norris in the lead, but he survived it only just, Martin.
Yeah, good driving from all of them, but Max has got himself up into second place with confidence on the brake pedal. They were all pointing in the right direction still. Excellent stuff.
Max Verstappen then making an impression already, and don't forget Brazil last season, he went from 17th on the grid to come home and win. He is definitely a driver who loves these sort of conditions, but now Norris has got momentum. He's starting to pull away out in front. Norris, Verstappen, then comes Piastri, and there out is the race is Jack Doohan, one of the Australian Grand Prix, and another rookie coming to grief in the early stages here. Safety car's been deployed. Doohan's okay. That's firstly the best news, but he's out.
Yeah, he'll have dropped that in the traction zone and has swapped ends as he was maybe even just shifting gear. And all these things you've got to learn. You've got to learn them the hard way, unfortunately. And that is very bad news for Jack Doohan. He doesn't need that at the moment. The talk of Colapinto getting in that car, and Jack needed a nice solid day today. He's certainly driven nicely in the dry this weekend.
So just before turn 6, Jack Doohan has hit the wall, and there's a fair bit of damage to his Alpine. Safety car, there it is. Bernd Maylander in the safety car, waiting to pick up the race leader, Lando Norris, who, before we talk too much about Jack Doohan, didn't have the most confident of starts, it seemed, Martin, from pole position.
No, you're talking about Lando, sorry, yes, yeah. So Lando, it was a little bit slow away, but the second part of the phase, so what's happened here? Is it just too much throttle?
He's behind the Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso.
It's that would have shocked him that happened. So it's very similar to Hadjar. Basically, he's accelerated gently, but the torque's come on stream and just loosened the rear axle, and boom, around it goes.
Oh, and there's a Williams. Carlos Sainz, last year's race winner, is also in the wall. Final corner, turn 14. Is that under safety car conditions? It must be. Carlos Sainz has dropped it.
Yeah.
At turn 14.
Yeah. Damaged. That's going to have damaged suspension as well, by the looks of it. He's come off 13, hasn't he? And just maybe just giving it a little bit too much throttle.
Here he is behind the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. Oh dear. You said it, you called it, Martin. Greasy.
Yeah.
Slippy.
It's on the racing line, you see. So what happens is, right, so again,
I
he'll
had
be
like
another
a
driver glow. What?
massive torque surge.
So he thinks maybe something from the engine mapping there has given him too much power at a moment he wasn't expecting.
What also happens is when you spin up the rear wheels, then the revs rise and you get more torque anyway, and you've got the battery pack kicking in there as well. They change the mapping. The throttle has to be linear, whatever the conditions, but they change the mapping. And we're going to see a lot of that, unfortunately. So we've had, I said, talking about it on the grid, Australian V8, Aussie V8s, Formula 2, Formula 3, other cars going round there, laying rubber down on the racing line. Then the water comes on top, and it's just so slippery. You've got to almost get off the racing line. But it's almost like a dry line there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a goat track dry line. And that is why it's so unbelievably slippery, especially with cold intermediate tyres. They'll take them through the pit lane because of that car's caught up in the final corner. So we're 3 cars down then, for goodness sake, and we've not really kind of got up and running, and they've all been exactly the same.
Absolutely.
Just loosen the rear axle into the wall.
We're just about to start lap 3. And as you say, 3 cars out. Jack Doohan, Isaac Hadjar, and Carlos Sainz. It's the 8th time in his career Carlos Sainz has retired on the first lap, more than any other driver on the grid other than Nico Hülkenberg, who's retired 12 times on the opening lap, and he's had a few more goes than Carlos Sainz at doing it. It's started 21 Grand Prix more.
All three of those cars were unsavable, by the way, as a driver. Once the rear wheels are spinning, it's unsavable like that.
Charles Leclerc backing up what you were saying, the track is drying very quickly. While we're going round behind the safety car, let's look at the order here. Verstappen making a move up into second place. Charles Leclerc's up to fifth. Yuki Tsunoda dropping down to sixth. Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll moving up, and we can actually see the race start. Look how Oscar Piastri gets a better getaway than Lando Norris, but Max Verstappen behind them, he's finding all sorts of grip off the line, and Lando quickly having to defend. Yeah,
as they went into second and third gears, then they clearly were spinning their wheels again at McLaren, and this is where Max took second place. Oscar was really struggling for traction through turn two. Max drove clean around the outside of him. Bold, but successful.
Yuki Tsunoda got a little bit swallowed up right there into turn three by Charles Leclerc. I think Lewis Hamilton was a bit compromised trying to battle his Ferrari teammate at the start. This is how Max Verstappen got away, and what a getaway.
Ticking over almost, wasn't he? Had no revs on at all. And Lando saw that one coming and was pretty feisty about it. There's a statement from him for this season. And this is where the back of the McLaren started sliding, and Max took a bit of a gamble there, because if he put a lot of trust in Oscar Piastri, and why wouldn't he? But anyway, he had to go. He had to go around the outside.
So Norris and Verstappen out in front. This is Jack Doohan. Obviously, the further back you go, the more spray you get, but it wasn't spray that was the cause. Just got on the greasy bit.
I think it was the shift. I'd like to hear that again, but I think it's just as he shifted up, he was unsighted in the spray. Yeah. And he would have been in that car looking at it like he was watching somebody else having an accident. He would have been so surprised that it would go round like that. There's his dad, Mick,
watching on, and this is Carlos Sainz spinning around, and you can see here that there is little or no runoff area at some corners, especially the final turn. If you're going to go offline, you head into a wall.
Yes, passenger, there's nothing you can do. I mean, he would have been tickling the throttle pedal.
He didn't tickle it enough. Certainly didn't find it funny.
And of course, at these speeds as well, you lose tyre temperature extremely quickly, and you're not carrying the downforce. You've got cars that are very stiffly suspended because they're ground effect cars. They run them close to the ground, and coasting at that speed, you massively lower downforce.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a recovery vehicle on the track to get rid of Carlos Sainz's Williams, a recovery vehicle on the track to recover Jack Doohan's Alpine. Isaac Hadjar's car has already been recovered. And I tell you what, Ted, any driver that finishes this race might take a few days to recover as well, because this could be atrocious to say the least.
True, they better get on with it, because we've got China in a week's time, in just a few days' time. So they've been through the pits twice already. I wouldn't be surprised if they see it another time. There's the medical car just passing by me. Just so I see down lots of discussion on the Williams pit wall. They're wanting to understand what was the cause of that spike in twisting power, the torque that Carlos Sainz was complaining about. Obviously, they still have Alex Albon in the race. But lesson number 53 of surviving Formula One, Crofty, is always listen to what Martin Brundle tells you. And it looks like Nico Hülkenberg really did that, didn't he, MB? He's up 5 places on the grid. Great start from Hülkenberg, up to P12. Well, Martin, that advice you gave him, limited as it was, really worked.
From the replays, it looks like Doohan lost it on straights just by putting a wheel on the white lines, just to watch the painted lines.
Yeah, I almost did the same. So yeah, they're quite slippery.
Okay, good man.
The problem is you've got to cross the white lines. You can't just avoid them. Places, I mean, that's an attraction zone. But a lot of vehicles on track, a lot of people on track. You might have imagined a red flag in this in these circumstances. It's all sort of safe enough, but having seen how quickly and easily they're spinning off the racetrack, I think we might have called for a red flag here, to be honest.
this is why you don't have a Formula One car as a safety car. You need something to slow people down.
Yeah.
Because the safety car is about keeping things safe. But if you were the race director, you'd have thrown a red flag on this one.
Yeah.
Just because we've had 3 cars lose it without any warning.
Yeah, they're losing it very easily, and they're just losing tyre temperature as well the further they go. So what's going to happen here? They're going to put, presumably, with Lawson, they're going to put a warm set of intermediates on.
Get that feeling. Ted, down to you. They're all coming in, Ted.
Yeah, it's the 2 who are already at the back, because you would have had to let the field completely pass of Esteban Ocon and Liam Lawson to put a brand new hot set of intermediates. Behrman as well has put a new set of intermediates on for the restart.
Yes, they've all been through the pit lane 3 times. 3 of them have made a stop.
That feels to me a bit too early, to be honest, still with breakdown vehicles on the racetrack. And with a temporary circuit like this, you don't have the normal service roads, just the other side of the track. A more modern or permanent facility would have a service road either side of the racetrack to take just quickly and take the cars away. You can't do that here, and that's why it's taking so long to get them out of the way. But are they out of the way now?
Let's go to Karun Shandok, Sky Race Control.
Well, I can see Carlos Sainz's car going past our commentary box, Crofty, and so it looks like that truck is coming off the track now. Just heard some radio. We saw a few minutes ago the radio from Leclerc saying the track is drying quickly. The follow-up to that is the engineer Brian Bozzi came back and said there's no more rain coming. And I've since heard Tom Stallard telling Oscar Piastri as well that there's no more rain coming. So I think this could be an interesting one here, because I agree with Martin. We could end up in the cycle. If the tyres are cool, you get one safety car leads to another, leads to another. But if it starts to dry, they can build temperature.
Weather update. No significant rain expected for at least 30 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe, do you know what? Maybe a bit of rain is what they need. Then it becomes wet, not greasy.
Yeah, they're going to use the pit straight this time because Sainz's car and the breakdown truck has gone. But I don't know, it strikes me this is when you should have come in and put the warm inters on.
Yeah.
But hey-ho, they've got them now. And they're obviously at the back of the field because they've nothing to lose down there. And the track begins to clear, and we wait for the safety car in this lap sign. Will it be this lap? And I'm starting to think, I wonder what the crossover point is between intermediates and slicks in terms of the lap times when they get up and running, because that's drying quite quickly.
Yeah, and people, it's first race of the new season, these new Pirelli wet tyres, so the crossover from wet to intermediate, they're not quite sure. They'll have data, the F1 teams, for those inters to slicks. But a dry line could appear, and it still might not be a time for slick tyres. This was Oscar Piastri's start, as his teammate cuts across, and then they all take that traditional line through there, and he's on the inside, which is probably more the racing line, and Max Verstappen finding a bit more grip going around the outside there.
Yeah, both McLarens there were really hanging on. I mean, it was getting a bit perilous there for both McLaren drivers, and it shows you that somehow or other Max was finding a bit more purchase, a bit more grip.
Now, you know, I thought Lewis Hamilton was a bit compromised when he was battling against his teammate Charles Leclerc. There's Alex Albon to the right-hand side, Leclerc clearly in front of Hamilton there, and he tries to go around the outside a bit, and then Charles Leclerc comes across him. That costs Lewis Hamilton, because here comes Alex Albon around the outside, doing to him what Verstappen did to Piastri.
Yeah, Leclerc was always going to bump the inside curb and wander across the track there, and Lewis was ready for it. He kind of had to go down there, really. He had to go try down the outside.
No indication that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and they've got to turn 11. So I think we've got at least one more lap behind the safety car. First, the marshals have to recover Jack Doohan's Alpine. Then they have to sweep away all the debris that would have been fairly substantive after quite a nasty whack and drag against the concrete.
Yeah, and as Karim was pointing out, safety cars make safety cars in terms of everything cools down, brakes, tyres, and there you're much more likely to have an incident. But of course it will be a rolling start that'll be controlled eventually when the safety car comes in. I was talking, I was talking about it on the grid again, wasn't I? Quite pertinently, as it turns out. But a safety car has to be on the key and ready for any weather condition, any incident. It can't be a single seater that goes faster that has a team of people running it, you know, and they've got to fire it up and what have you. And if they do a lot of laps in that safety car, it'll run out of fuel, and there's another one standing by ready to continue should that be required. Just to remind you, after Spa 2021, where we had those 2 laps behind the safety car and half points were awarded, the rules are such, as the safety car's coming in at the end of this lap, which is great. The rules are such now that no points will be awarded if the leader has completed less than 2 laps, and that's 2 laps of racing without the safety car, which we haven't actually had yet.
They're okay. I mean, little bits in the last sector, I actually think, because of dry patches. But some bits are still pretty wet. 100% in turns a minute, definitely not close to the wet. But if it stays like this, it will dry up at some point, if it doesn't rain.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, it'll be those zones that just stay a little bit wet under the trees, 5 to 6, and it looked quite wet down the back straight there, didn't it? 6 through to 9.
Right, Bernd Mailander is foot to the floor, peeling away from the rest of the pack as Lando Norris now gathers everyone together for this restart. Safety car period is ending. We all keep our fingers crossed that we get some extended racing here in Albert Park, because so far we've had 6 laps and we're on lap 7 of mostly processions behind the safety car. When does Lando Norris get going here? He's starting to.
Yeah, and what he's not allowed to do is now slow down again. So he's sort of shown his colours. He wanted some tyre temperature before he got there.
And Max Verstappen is right on his tail here, barreling down the main straight. You can't overtake until the line. There's the line now. Here comes Verstappen at Norris. Piastri, a little bit of drift. Then comes George Russell into turn 1. Norris survives that. Charles Leclerc keeps his position in 5th, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda under pressure from Alex Albon. And now the run towards turn 3. And Norris is starting to eke out the gap on Max Verstappen behind him. Albon still very keen with Yuki Tsunoda. Thinks about a move, nothing doing there. Hamilton just keeping a watching brief in 8th place as Ollie Behrman sets the fastest lap. No bonus points for that, of course, in 2025.
Boo for that. He wouldn't get one unless he was in the top 10 anyway. But yeah, we haven't got that to talk about at the end of a race. Talk about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know why they took the fastest lap point away, but they have.
With you on that one. Far side of the track, that's where we get the big rooster tails, because that's where you're getting the big speeds as well. And we're on the run now towards turn 9 and 10, as Fernando Alonso has been noted for a safety car infringement. Did he overtake somebody before the line, or was there another reason? Piastri right on Max Verstappen's tail as they came out of turn 10. Keep a watch on that. He's not getting as detached now as he was just a little bit previously on this lap.
We know the McLaren's a well-balanced, good car, and in these conditions, when they can start getting some inter-temperature up in their tyres and brakes, it'll come alive. The brakes then also feed the wheel rim with temperature, and it just, the whole thing, it's like a snowball. You just get more and more and more grip, and you have to say the McLaren's look every bit a match at the moment for the Red Bull.
Marvellous. We've had a racing lap in 2025, and Lando Norris leads from Max Verstappen by 9/10 of a second when they crossed the line. Piastri was a second back on Max Verstappen, then George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly and Fernando Alonso in the top 10. They are still sliding their way out of turn 3.
I'm actually nervous, and I'm not even in the car. I just know how difficult these conditions are for the drivers, but you know, they're working it out at the moment.
Right, Fernando Alonso is being investigated for a safety car infringement now. You can just see him in the background in 10th place, and Yuki Tsunoda, currently in 6th, has also been noted for something they shouldn't have done in that safety car period. We'll keep you up to date as Nico Hülkenberg continues on in 12th place. He's gained the most places in this race so far, and we're on board with Lewis Hamilton. flicking his way left-handed into turn 9 and out of turn 10. Get your foot down and chase after Alex Albon. This is not the easiest track to overtake. That's why there's 4 DRS zones, but there's no DRS at the moment, not while the conditions are as greasy as this.
And we've seen in the background Charles Leclerc already going offline to cool his tyre. These intermediate tyres will start to complain soon. The compound Max there with a handful of opposite lock to save the car in the final turn. They'll soon start complaining and getting overheated, the intermediate tyres.
Now remember, the gap at the end of the last lap was 9/10 between first and second. It was 6/10 when Norris and Verstappen crossed the line a few moments ago. Verstappen keeping Lando Norris very keen here.
And if you're wondering where is the DRS, where's the rear wing, they don't open it in tricky conditions. The theory, and I think it was Charlie Whiting, the great Charlie Whiting, it was his thought that if it's slippery and difficult, why would you let the cars go even faster down the straights?
And Charlie Whiting very much in our thoughts every time we come to Australia. 6 years since his passing, and our man who gave so much to this sport. Lewis Hamilton, we can see him on the left-hand side, still in pursuit of Alex Albon. Max Verstappen still in pursuit of Lando Norris. Get the feeling though, how long can Max Verstappen stay this close to the McLaren? Another twitchy exit from turn 10 before his tyres just start to say, please cool me down.
They're yo-yoing quite a lot, aren't they? The gap between them. There's a lovely power slide there from Lando Norris, but that puts you tight on the apex, and then you can't hit the throttle so hard through the exit because you're on a tight line. There's Lando's mum. Look, fingers crossed. And, what can you tell us, Karun, at Sky Race Control?
Gabriel Portoletto has been reporting issues with his brakes, so something to keep an eye on, Crofty. He's saying that the brake pedal itself is starting to go a bit long.
And the safety car incidents that are being investigated involving Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda are for leaving more than 10 car lengths to the car in front. So, as I would imagine, as we got going again, backing off too much to then get a running jump start, as it were.
Yeah, I'm also hearing what happened to Carlos Sainz was it was a part throttle clunky upshift.
Ooh,
that just I think that's probably what happened to all of them. I wonder also if Doohan hadn't just upshifted when the car broke loose.
Possibly. Norris is now pulling away from Max Verstappen out in front. The gap has grown to 1.1 seconds. He's survived the start, he's survived the safety car restart, and he's looking in decent form now, and you can see this dry line appearing. But it's still a dry line with a greasy bit of tread as Verstappen has to run very wide there to get some water into the tread on those intermediate tyres.
They're feeling the lack of grip. So I think the crossover point, I was talking to Karun about this, maybe a 1:25, we're doing 1:32s at the moment, when you might think of putting slick tyres on. But if you go too early on some of these white lines and damp patches, you'll be in the wall before you know it.
Charles Leclerc being told as well to cool his front left. So there goes
main tyre to cool down, front left.
2 minutes for me, but if you can leave me to it a little bit more.
They're coming down the main straight there like the race is over, Martin, and they're all sort of swerving away to celebrate.
Yeah. Very polite from Charles, isn't it?
Here's interesting.
Almost a suggestion.
DRS enabled. So race control has decided it is dry enough to have DRS. So if you are within a second of the car in front, well, you can get a little helping hand of a reduction in drag.
And it's pretty powerful around here, isn't it, the DRS? There's lots of it.
It can improve your lap time. There's 4 zones. It can improve your lap time by about 7/10. And the one who is going to get a fair bit of benefit will be Oscar Piastri. He is within 0.8 of a second of Max Verstappen. Andrea Kimi Antonelli as well, who's chasing now after the Sauber of Nico Hülkenberg. And he's going to be in DRS range when we get to the activation zones. As into turn 11 we go, and Oscar Piastri squeezes up towards the rear wing of Max Verstappen, and we can head down to Ted.
Just think about that radio message to Charles Leclerc. The problem with him saying leave me alone is that his tyres, Crofty, are going off like last week's milk. He was right with George Russell Russell's doing a 1:33.3. Leclerc now 1:34.2. So almost a second a lap slower Leclerc is than Russell. Leclerc's tyres are going off so quickly.
Here comes Oscar Piastri down towards turn 1. You can see the blinking rain light getting ever larger in the camera view from the rear of Max Verstappen's Red Bull, as Antonelli does the same thing to Nico Hülkenberg and can't quite get past.
With the help of a bit of DRS as well, Piastri comfortably the fastest man on the track at the moment.
Yep, with a 1:31.2 was half a second faster than his teammate Lando Norris on the previous lap.
Let me know where I'm slow. Struggling with drivability. Car snappy.
11-12.
First turn 11 and 12. So first race for Lewis Hamilton with Ferrari power, trying to get used to that and everything else at his new team. 11 and 12. We're approaching 11 in a few moments' time with Verstappen and Piastri.
Who's going to blink first when it comes to changing tyres? This is a much easier decision for Red Bull than it is for McLaren, isn't it? Because they don't obviously can't stack their two cars. They'll have to choose one of them. Whereas Red Bull, with only one car up front, don't have that particular challenge.
What I think we should do is get Karun Chandok to send Jenson Button a little text message saying, JB,
time, there's possibly 1 lap of Class 1 rain, general rain risk increasing.
Right, I was going to say, ask Jenson, when's it time to put the slicks on? Because he'd be radioing his team to do just that. But if rain's coming, they can't afford to pit now and put a dry set of tyres on.
No, they can't, and Piastri's still with that DRS, Crofty. But look, Verstappen now edging onto the back of Norris as well, just a tenth behind. Hamilton, by the way, you know, we heard that message where he said, let me know about where I'm losing.
Yeah.
The following couple of messages came back with, leave me to it, leave me to it. So I think that this is all part of building that relationship where he's trying to indicate how much information he wants and when it's too much. So they're building that relationship, him and Riccardo Adami.
Yes, after all those years with Peter Bonington, he's got Riccardo Adami as his man Friday, as it were, at a racetrack, his race engineer.
They're really ebbing and flowing still, aren't they? It looks like they're both catching Lando, and then Lando scampers off down the road, and then they come back at him.
Does that indicate to you that Lando's got this under control at the moment?
He might just be coasting a little bit and trying to save those tyres. If there's going to be a bit more rain, they've really got to get these inters as far as they can into the race.
Can you K1 me over to close?
Into it, please.
K1 available?
Yes, I know. Leave me to it, please.
Bono will be smiling.
Kimi Antonelli going for a move there, and I think he might have just made that stick into turn 11 as well on Nico Hülkenberg. He's been getting ever closer to Hülkenberg in the last few laps, and I think he has just made that move stick. Nice one.
I think what Toulouse is being told there, if you want to use more power when you're close to an overtake, you use it.
So, Max Verstappen with DRS, Oscar Piastri with DRS, Lando Norris without, because he's got a clear track ahead of him as his bonus at the moment.
Yeah, so he doesn't have DRS, and also it's Lando first on the scene. They can use him as a reference point of how much grip there is, because the track is changing constantly now.
Said Kimi Antonelli on Nico Hülkenberg down the inside, keep it under control. It's you've probably got a decent bit of grip down there as well on the inside in these sort of conditions. Nice move, he'll be very pleased with that.
Yeah, it was good, nicely executed. We saw as Max moves into the DRS zone behind Lando now, but we saw Antonelli last year in a wet race in Formula 2 absolutely walked away from the field every time the safety car came in. He is confident in these conditions. That was a very confident overtake.
Certainly was. The third youngest driver to start a Grand Prix ever after Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll. Lewis Hamilton seems to be gaining a little bit on Alex Albon here. He's getting ever closer to that Williams. Out in front, Lando Norris has just set the new fastest lap of this race to try and keep himself ahead of Max Verstappen, and in doing so has taken himself out of that DRS threat that Verstappen was posing. Ted, down to you.
I've been keeping across Hamilton's gap to Albon. He's never really been more than a second behind him, but he's got this conundrum. He's got to keep his tyres in good condition, Lewis, but also try and get ahead of the Williams, because his teammate Leclerc is, what, 7 seconds down the road, Crofty? So Lewis is really losing time to Leclerc. By the way, that drizzle, or Class 1 rain, if you want to call it, is now falling in the pit lane.
Excellent. Stick your brolly up, Ted, and stay dry, my friend. That is where Lewis Hamilton is making the biggest impact on Alex Albon in the second part of the lap.
You've got to drive every metre of every lap in conditions like this. When we went on board, you can just see how easy it would be to get the car slightly out of those goat tracks and go straight to the scene of the accident. You've really got to drive it every metre.
It's fascinating to see the accuracy when you see that dry line appearing that these drivers can produce. Oh, and that is what happens when you can't produce the accuracy. Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
From earlier on in this race.
So he did what George did in pre-practice and stuck his right rear wheel on the grass, and all his good overtaking work undone there, but he lives for another day.
Yeah, he does. Hülkenberg has got past him. So Hülkenberg up to 12th and Antonelli down at 13th, and try again. Still Fernando Alonso under investigation by the stewards, along with Yuki Tsunoda. Alonso not really caring about that for the moment, and gaining on Pierre Gasly.
That's why they got the exclamation marks, isn't it, on the screen now.
Now, these are the sort of races, these are so important for the likes of Alpine and Aston Martin, who, on the form we've seen in testing, are not going to be competing in the top 5 on a regular basis this year, as Oscar Piastri now within just a few car lengths of Max Verstappen. But they need to capitalise in races like this, as Verstappen there gets on the curve, and that might give Piastri just a little bit more incentive as well, because he's got the DRS and he's just a fraction too far back. But Verstappen's gone too deep into the gravel, didn't go down the escape road. That made the overtake very easy for Piastri. Their anxious faces on the Australian fans, they'll turn into cheers in a moment when they see their man is up to second.
I think it was a puddle of water he went through on the curb that came up rather than gravel, but he locked a brake, and that has released Piastri beautifully towards his teammate.
And that is a rare mistake in the wet from Max Verstappen, who is still hunting to try and get water into his tyres. You get the feeling they really are starting to overheat. And now it's McLaren 1-2, and Piastri can start to get hot with his teammate Lando Norris, if he can catch him.
Got a feeling this is going to be the story of the year, certainly the first part of the year. 2 McLarens versus Max Verstappen, and then when Ferrari get it together, they should join the party.
All right, let's have a look from Max Verstappen's perspective. Under braking, just a fraction too deep. And yeah, it was water in the curb. Looked like gravel he was throwing up, but sploshing through the puddles, and it was just a lock-up front left, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's unusual to do you normally do the inside tyre, but he put a bit of steering lock on, and it wouldn't turn. It just stopped rotating, and a tyre has to rotate in order to give you some grip. This was the overtake from Kimi Antonelli before he spun off, but it looks like Hamilton under investigation for safety car infringement too.
Yeah, not quite yet. He's been noted for a safety car infringement, as has Alex Albon as well. So 2 under investigation, 2 have been noted. We'll keep you posted. Karun Chandon.
Max Verstappen saying his tyres are dead, Crofty. They're having a conversation on what to do in terms of, with the rain coming down, what do you do at this stage? If you have to box, would you go for another fresh set of intermediates, or can you ride it out? Because McLaren have just said it's only a small shower. So a lot of conversations around strategically, can they ride this shower out and wait in case we go to slicks?
If they could all fast forward 7 laps right now, I'm sure they would definitely take that, because the rain should have gone away and then they can make a more considered choice. But what would you do if your tyres are gone? Would you come in because that's safety first?
I think we're about to find out with Max, because he's really struggling for grip now. Max has slowed down a lot. That overtake from Kimi Antonelli was actually a carbon copy. It was his second time he's overtaken Hülkenberg in that corner. And look, I thought it was the first one, but it was exactly the same thing for a second time.
Yeah, it wasn't a replay. It happened again. Right, Ted, down to you.
It's like you did for new.
Yeah, bear in mind, we would currently lose positions for doing that. Max, we're expecting the weather to start clearing in 10 minutes, if you can hold on.
What Max is saying there is, look, if these tyres are worn out, if they've got to go through actual rain and a wet track, I won't have enough grip. But he's dropped 4 seconds behind Piastri, 6.9 behind Norris. So Max just generally struggling a little bit in this phase.
Meanwhile, the stewards are investigating Alex Albon and Lewis Hamilton for an infringement behind the safety car. We know that we know that Alonso and Tsunoda are under investigation for dropping more than 10 car lengths behind. No further action, Fernando Alonso. That's just flashed up, so 3 still under investigation. We can head to Ted.
Yeah, so the mechanics at Red Bull still firmly sat on their chairs in the garage. It would definitely be for new intermediates if Max did pit now, and he wouldn't lose too many positions, Crofty, would he? He'd probably come out about sort of Alex Albon area.
Yeah.
I think he'd clear Lewis Hamilton in P8, such as the sort of spread of the field means that Hamilton now 30 seconds behind the leaders and 22 seconds behind Verstappen. You need around 19 seconds to do a pit stop.
Yeah, that's right. He'd be just ahead of Albon at the moment. So let's have a look at Liam Lawson in his battle out on the track currently.
But on a fresh set of tyres, you'd get 19 seconds back in a hurry.
And that's Lawson getting past Esteban Ocon. Ooh, I tell you what. And he got onto the white line, didn't he?
Yeah, he held that well. I thought he was going to cross the grass there.
Yeah, well, he did go a little bit onto the grass, but he's held it well. No further action. Lewis Hamilton, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Fernando Alonso, as you were, everybody. And it's as you were out in front. Norris from Piastri, Zach Brown. How are you? Oh, let's just hear your team radio first.
Car, we think we would currently stay out on this set. This set is moving towards intermediate.
Yeah, agreed.
If it rains more, we have to change.
Yeah, if it rains more, we change. If it stays like this, we're fine.
That sounds like both driver and race engineers, Zach, in perfect harmony with their thinking. Is there a lot going on behind the scenes here with some decision-making to do?
Yeah, it's just going to be tire strategy here, dependent upon the weather. But I think what you just heard is what the game plan is at the moment. Maybe a little bit threat of some light rain coming up, so we'll have to see how that plays out.
Oscar's just turning some very quick sectors and laps. If he catches Lando, what happens then?
Then they race.
Still.
Cool.
Absolutely.
We love that. Zach, what is your scenario with the weather forecast as it is at the moment? Is it just this light drizzle for a bit and then we're going to get no more rain after that?
That's what it looks like. I've had a few different forecast changes in the last 20 minutes, so I don't think there's heavy rain coming. The question's whether any rain is coming, so we'll just need to react to it and we see what happens.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Zach. Now you can see the conditions on the bank with the Australian flag there showing you that crosswinds on the far side of the circuit as well. Turns into a headwind about now as Lewis Hamilton getting very, very close to Alex Albon and Fernando Alonso chasing Pierre Gasly in the battle for 9th spot. He's got DRS as they accelerate out of turn 10 towards turn 11, which is a very favoured overtaking zone. Certainly for this year, and certainly for Kimi Antonelli.
And again, then Piastri coming at Norris, the gap down to 2.1 seconds now. And yeah, they're dialed into the racetrack now, and they've got the temperatures they need. I don't know. If your tyres fall away, they've dropped Verstappen, really. It's turned into a 2-horse race up front.
Yeah. Right, this rain will stop in 3 laps. Oscar Piastri has been told over the team radio. So if he's about a second and a half behind Lando Norris, then he's in the undercut zone. Then he can pit, get some fresh tyres, come out, do a lap, and be ahead of his teammates when Lando Norris pits. But that's in the dry. Can you do the same thing on these intermediate tyres and in these conditions?
Well, I think you'll get immediately better grip. Yeah, it might almost be even more effective in these conditions with a fresh set of inters, sort of thing you can go out and go 3-4 seconds a lap faster, as long as you don't take too much life out of them. We've got to keep an eye on Kimi Antonelli, actually, because he's down in 12th, but he's lapping considerably faster than many cars in front of him. Now he's up and running. In fact, he's lapping recently at the same pace as George Russell, doing a fine job up in 4th place there. So we'll keep an eye and see how far young Antonelli can get. Which
is kind of what you would expect, given that he qualified out of position.
Lost gear sync.
Understood. We suggest be big free.
I think he might have fixed the issue, because if he's lost gear sync, he's still getting an awful lot closer to Alex Albon than he has been in previous laps.
Yeah, they're seamless gearboxes. I mean, they're unbelievable. You just forget you've even got a gearbox when you're driving these cars. When they're working nicely, you get a beep in your ear, tells you to shift, or the lights on the wheel, or both. And when it goes out of sync, my goodness, you know about it. There's an awful lot of energy going on behind you.
Kimi Antonelli has now got past Lance Stroll. He's up into 11th place. He is really charging and enjoying these conditions here today. Lewis Hamilton stuck in 8th behind Alex Albon. You might remember a few years ago, Alex Albon scoring points here in Melbourne by running, what, 57 or 56 laps out of 58 on the same compound of tyre. The C2, first 57 laps. Then he pitted and came home to score points. He's a man who likes to go long in his first stint in Albert Park.
Indeed. Lewis 36.7 seconds off the lead. That's getting towards 2 pit stops behind the leaders. So that tells you he's really sort of not able to progress in this midfield pack, but also just how mighty the McLarens are out front.
Have a little look from Lewis Hamilton on Alex Albon. Nothing doing into turn 3. Ted, we can head down to you.
Yeah, just looking, B-MIG, by the way, is brake migration, so just as well that Hamilton's been learning where all the knobs and dials are on his Ferrari steering wheel, because he's needing them in this race. He still is lapping 2 seconds per lap slower than his teammate Charles Leclerc. That's how much his race is being hurt, but well done to Alex Albon, driving in that brilliant defensive way that he always does. And it's giving Yuki Tsunoda a bit of a pass just to run his own race and be pretty comfortable 2 seconds ahead of the Williams of Albon, Crofty. So it's really helping Tsunoda, this Albon-Hamilton battle. But Leclerc's tyres seem to have come back to him. I don't know what category is it, 1 or 2, but it's it's drizzling once again down here in the pits.
Only 2 cars lapping in the 1:29s at the moment are the 2 McLarens. Max Verstappen's last lap was a 1:30.6. He is now 10 seconds behind Oscar Piastri with some pretty angry-looking intermediate tyres.
Yeah, they're looking almost treadless, almost bald, aren't they? Which is why he's nervous if it rains too much. Yeah, I kind of think if they'd have committed early that he could have made extremely good use of some fresh inters, but he'd got to get through the traffic as well, to be frank. Korea's got more information.
Lots of conversation on what you would do in case you paid, and both drivers at McLaren saying, I think we'll stay out. At the moment, Hamilton having a look properly around the outside of Albon.
Who defensively keeps going, goes a bit deep. Hamilton's going to keep fighting that one, but has to yield as they get towards turn 12.
And don't forget, Lewis ran into the back of Alex Albon when he was a Red Bull driver twice, didn't he?
Yes, he
cost
did.
Alex a tremendous result. Probably cost him the drive.
Is there
Just a quick line on
2 seconds. Leakage of what?
I have the seat full of water, like full of water.
Must be the water.
Let's add that to the weather freezer.
Yes, that clears that one up then.
Did he mean the drinks bottle? Maybe he means the drinks bottle.
I suspect that's what it is. Just back on Lewis. It's really fascinating. He's still getting more coaching about changes you can make and suggestions about when to enable the DRS and go for an early upshift, stuff like that. And he keeps coming back with leave me to it. So clearly the way that Riccardo Adami used to be working with Carlos Sainz and Sebastian Vettel before that is a bit different to the amount of information Lewis is used to having from Pete Bonington, or wants to have from the pit wall.
As for Charles Leclerc, what a way to run a race. I'm enjoying those conversations. It's all winter long.
Granddad joke territory there.
All winter long I've been waiting for these. We're on lap 26 of 57. 1.4 seconds between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and I wondered if Oscar was just going to sit back a little bit, protect his tyres for a moment, keep in touch, but just bit by bit he's edging towards Lando, and then Lando has to respond again. Both drivers pushing each other ever harder and ever faster.
He's getting perilously close to getting within Norris's DRS 1 second zone, isn't he? And then he'll find some pace. So, but they've checked out now with Verstappen. Verstappen 14 seconds off the lead. Almost, we're getting towards a pit stop with him again. So he's fell off the cliff, didn't it? His pace when Piastri went past him.
You know, George Russell said that they can stop developing now in that McLaren. They can go and dominate this season and switch to 2026. Well, on this sort of form, he might have a point, although McLaren is saying, don't be silly, George, one way to go as yet.
A well-balanced car works on any type of track, every type of track, every type of condition, and I think that's what we're seeing here now with McLaren.
So we can see the view from Alex Albon's Williams back towards Lewis Hamilton. And down the main straight come the two McLarens once again. Zach Brown looking a lot more relaxed on that pit wall than Andrea Stella is. Andrea Stella, the team principal. Zach, the CEO, trusting his men and women to deliver.
I'll tell you what I was impressed with is just how utterly calm Lando was on the radio. Ted, what can you tell us?
I'm looking across at the Red Bull pit wall, and Max's engineer, the head engineer, GP Lampiazzi, is looking around at the weather. And I get the feeling that they feel they're not giving Max the car that he needs to do anything with now. They're waiting for the conditions to dry out. I think what GP is doing is looking out at the cold conditions, the lack of wind, no sun, is thinking this isn't going to dry out anytime soon. Surely they've just got to box Max for new inters now and give him some tools to do what he can. Because he's just doing nothing at the moment, isn't he, as you've been saying. Holding off Russell, of course. You know, Russell's 7 seconds behind him, but it's just not really doing, he's in some nowhere land at the moment. I think Red Bull are going to pit Verstappen quite soon.
Yeah, it's certainly what I've been saying, isn't it, for a while. It seemed to me that you'd so quickly pull 19 seconds back. And also, I think Max would go sailing past the traffic, frankly, as well, on a fresh set of boots. But Piastri radioing in saying his tyres are good. And on a drying track, actually getting rid of some of the tread is not a big problem. Young Hadjar.
Isaac Hadjar, first driver out of this race before it even got going, got to turn 1, came out of that corner on the formation lap, put his foot down, car spun off into the barriers. We have lost as well Isaac Hadjar, Jack Doohan and Carlos Sainz, both drivers absolutely impossible recovery from what happened. Sainz at the final corner, Doohan from just before turn 6. There was nowhere to go
to avoid the
except
deny
towards the barriers.
DRS, we suggest half a shift and then DRS.
Please leave it. Yes, please leave it. I'm running the car as we go, mate. Just leave me to it with the DRS. It's not an issue.
Yeah, it's the engineer doing their job, Ricardo Adami doing his job, and Lewis Hamilton saying, look, it's fine, don't quite need that detailed information just yet. It'll take a season to
it sounded quite important information to me, but
it did.
Lewis clearly doesn't want any of that at the moment. Another fine driver, had to become a spectator. So yeah, it's sad to see last year's winner out of the race, but Piastri, what they know out front. What they know out front, those two McLaren drivers, is that there's a championship available this year, and they both want to make sure that they get ahead in the early part of the season. That it's going to be super intense for the rest of this afternoon and the rest of the season between Norris and Piastri.
It's taken a while to really start to warm up as this race, and it is starting to warm up in quite a way. Oscar Piastri hunting for a bit of coolant liquid.
A bit of water now as well.
Yeah, he's got the DRS, but he's trying to keep his tyres cool as well as he's getting ever closer to Lando Norris. This is a massive day of sport on Sky Sports. Proper Super Sunday, this. Arsenal and Chelsea, Leicester against Man United in the Premier League, Celtic against Rangers in the Old Firm derby. It's Carabao Cup final day between Liverpool and Newcastle. We've got the lot, plus the Players' Championship. Rory McIlroy very much in contention, and later tonight, Jack Draper in his first ever ATP Masters final. He takes on Holger Rune after beating Carlos Alcaraz. Is all on Sky Sports, and you might be about to see an Australian leading the Australian Grand Prix if Piastri keeps on the way he's going.
Indeed, Norris got DRS going through the back markers, which helped him a lot down there. Gave him a little bit of protection. He'll get a bit more soon as well.
Oscar Piastri, fastest man on the track. He's about 7/10 of a second behind Lando Norris. Ahead of these two, Esteban Ocon in the Haas. He is running currently 16th. His teammate Ollie Behrman has been lapped. DRS there for Oscar Piastri as they head down towards turn one. You can see how powerful that extra 12-13 kilometers an hour of extra pace is for Oscar.
Piastri's been told to hold position, but he's arguing against it as he gets another dose of DRS down into turn three.
Yeah, if he's been told, Martin, I don't think he's either heard, understood, or is willing to comply, because there's a race on here. It's his home Grand Prix. It's the first race of the season. You try telling a driver to hold position. Would you do it?
It's going to be a season-long problem for McLaren, isn't it, controlling these two? We knew it, and here it is in real time, because they're so well matched. They're so good at what they do. They're so fast, and they've got a car that looks like it could be dominant for a few races at least.
Lap 30 of 57. Norris from Piastri into 9 and 10 we go.
Please hold position. Transition to the dry. Clear the back markers. Next one is Ocon.
I mean, I'm faster, but okay.
Yeah, well, he's cleared Ocon. He's cleared Ocon. That back marker has gone, and just looking at the track map here, Liam Lawson's quite a fair bit away from the two McLarens. Max Verstappen over 16 seconds further back, and it's not been that long since Piastri got past him. Russell in fourth, Leclerc in fifth.
So Piastri gets double dose of DRS here, doesn't he? He gets it all the way down to turn three as well, and well, that turns into the first chicane so nicely, that car. They're really carrying a lot of speed. And again, Piastri looking for the slightly wetter parts of the racetrack. We're in the 28s. We're starting to head to, if they think it won't rain again, we're starting to head towards thinking about slick tyres, providing there's not a few hundred meters or 100 meters or so here and there that would be too light. This zone here would be very tricky on slick tyres.
Yeah, if you could stay in that dry line, then you could have some slick tyres, but it's like tightrope walking, Martin, at about 200 miles an hour, which is not something I'd advise to try at home.
Yeah, and with that, with a 16-second lead over Max, McLaren don't need to be the first to blink in that respect, especially with two cars out there. Norris will know that he gets first service if he stays in the lead. Piastri knows exactly the opposite. He'll get first service if he stays, if he gets in the lead.
I'm not close enough. I'm not close enough. I'm close, I'll do it.
Understood. Is K1 the overtake button, I wonder?
Yeah.
I assume it is for Ferrari, and Hamilton saying I'm not close enough to make that count. As down the main straight we go once again. The two McLarens passing that pit wall. He's been told to hold position, but for how long does he need to do that? Zach Brown, maybe you've got the answers. Zach, come in. Can you hear us?
I'm here.
Excellent.
Sorry, we were just making some decisions here.
No worries at all, my friend. How long does Oscar have to hold that position for, or are they back free racing again?
Time to go racing.
Time to go racing. That is a T-shirt with your name on it, sir, coming your way after this race.
So Ferrari are talking to their drivers of thinking about slick tyres, Zach. Are you having similar conversations?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to manage, is the tire situation versus racing hard and using up the tires. But at this point, time to go racing, and we'll see how things play out.
And if it is time for slicks, mediums or hards, will the mediums last to the end of this race?
I don't think we can tell that secret, can we?
I don't know whether you're going to put them on, it's just whether they last, Zach.
Oscar's just had an issue, had a little moment, I think, out there. He's dipped the tyre at turn 6, kept it all going though, Zach. But he's dropped back well out of the DRS zone now.
Yeah, he's been pushing quite hard. Both guys are doing a great job.
Thanks ever so much, Zach. 2 1-2 finishes in the last 15 years for McLaren. Monza in 2021, Hungary in 2024. And as Zach Brown has just been talking to us live on Sky Sports F1, and if they can hold this position, it will be their 50th 1-2 finish in their constructor history. And what a way to start the season it would be. We have a Red Bull at the moment in between 2 McLarens, but unlike the start of this race, that Red Bull is now a back marker. It's not Verstappen, it is Liam Lawson, who's been lapped by Norris, and he's about to be lapped by Piastri.
They're fighting over last place.
Yeah, Oscar, we're free to race now, free to race, you know the rules.
Yeah, they're fighting over last place, but Oli Beerman has caught Esteban Ocon up, having started in the pit lane. I know the safety car negated a lot of that, but unfortunately for them, they're right at the back.
Yeah, they're a long way adrift at Haas, really struggling for this weekend. Liam Lawson has been lapped. Gabriel Bortoleto behind his teammate Nico Hülkenberg, separated by about 4.5 seconds at the end of the last lap. Fernando Alonso still holding 9th place ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll. In between these two, Kimi Antonelli, whose pace has just slowed down a bit in terms of catching up to Alonso. Ted, down to you.
Just a quick line on Liam Lawson. Now that we see him, he's had absolutely no pace in this race. 3 seconds sometimes per lap slower than Max Verstappen. I think that wing change that they put on his car in Parc Ferme, Crofty.
Oh, Ted, Fernando Alonso spinning round and hitting the wall. You can see him there, coming to grief, Fernando Alonso, just out of turn 7, and that's going to be at least a safety car. Well, they clear that up.
So will they put slicks on? That's a tough decision now for the leaders, especially, well, McLaren have got a bit of space behind them to double stack, yes.
Yeah, hard tyres coming out at Ferrari.
Hard tyres. Well, they went all right, didn't they? But you'd kind of want the, I think you'd want the easier to warm up mediums or softs, but soft wouldn't last long enough. But Alonso clearly around and out of the race. Hard tyres going on the Mercedes as well. They've got to go for it. They've got to go for gold under this safety car. It saves you 10 seconds.
Right, Lewis Hamilton in at Ferrari. Also Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly coming in. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, this has worked really well. Worked very well for Lewis Hamilton. He's the first one in. Team radio.
Box, they're saying to Lando Norris.
Alex Albon in as well, Kimi Antonelli. Everybody is going to come in. The Alpine has been in as well. But that's worked. This could be the break that Hamilton needs in this race.
So why you save 10 seconds is you're pitting while the other cars are going much more slowly on the track. But if everybody pits, they all save the time, of course.
Now, I think, as Lewis Hamilton comes out still behind Alex Albon, that Oscar Piastri, who is pitting, has just dropped back a bit from Lando Norris so that McLaren can double stack, and they've got enough time to service both cars, as very tentatively Gabriel Bortoleto pulls into the Haas pit box. That slowed Lando Norris down as he makes his way now into the pits.
Yeah, normally Piastri wouldn't be allowed to slow down like that if there was another rival behind him, but there clearly isn't. So that's not a problem. You're not allowed to start gapping, but that's not an issue.
Verstappen was 16 seconds behind, and he wasn't slowed down by Oscar's slowing on the track. Let's just have a look at this Red Bull stop. Must be so tricky to get stopped on the concrete in the pits. Medium tyres going on for Max Verstappen. It was hard tyres for Norris and Piastri. Now this is interesting. When we get the restart here, we've got Norris and Piastri on hards, Verstappen on mediums, which might warm up just that little bit quicker. The hard isn't the big hard, it's not the C1, it's the C3, which in Bahrain, for instance, is the soft compound tyre.
Yeah, it's the hard tyre for here, isn't it? Yeah. So that's a very good point. But So Red Bull and others, so Albon on mediums as well. Verstappen will get a faster warm-up on those tyres, on the restart. So he'll cruise that time that he lost. He'll get back, of course, now, because he'll cruise up to the gearbox in a full safety car situation behind the two McLarens, and we go again. We reset.
We certainly do. We used this analogy yesterday. It's not the Danny Dyer hard tyre, it's the Martin Brundle hard tyre, so hard with a soft set. Yeah. Still warms up nicely.
Or something.
Exactly. It's not hard, as it were. So Lando Norris has survived the start, the restart, and another restart. In a moment, we'll take a look at that Fernando Alonso crash. And if the most experienced driver on the grid, who made his debut here 24 years ago, is still finding these conditions tricky, it shows you that the rest are not finding this exactly a walk in the park this afternoon.
I was surprised to see a shunt like that at that phase, to be honest, especially from somebody like Fernando. Curry.
There's a bit of confusion because safety car came out at a point in front of a group of Hamilton, Albon and co. So Lewis asking, can I pass the safety car? Getting the instruction, yes, you can. They're being allowed to go all the way around. The safety car's now found
the leader,
Lando Norris, But Hamilton and that group are able to just go a bit more and get a bit of temperature on a dry track. So a lot of conversation going on about that. It will sort itself out, but the group is split, Crofty. The leaders at turn 4 and the likes of Tsunoda, Albon and Hamilton all the way at the back of the track at turn 9.
Put it this way, it's going to take a while for them all to join together, but it's going to take a while to clear the debris. So through turn 5 and 6, and he got on the curb, and that was the end of that. For them.
She didn't hit the wall as hard as I thought he might. Crashed it going off there. So, yeah, he would have been surprised by that as well, you know, because it wasn't off the track. It just touched the ground, didn't it? Just loosened the car off. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Martin, 2 laps ago, that could have been Oscar Piastri.
Yeah.
Who had that moment when he got on, just dipped into the gravel through exactly the same corner. Doesn't take much, does it?
He barely touched the gravel, did he? It's just let go on. He's found something in there, the curb, the line, a bit of gravel, or any combination thereof, and it sent the car around.
Right, we lose our 4th driver from this race. This was Lando Norris's pit stop. It's nicely done, and Oscar Piastri following straight in, double stacking, and no problem with any traffic around in the pit lane either. Liam Lawson, meanwhile, coming into the pits. This is Gabriel Bortoletto, I think, coming out. Is that an unsafe release? It looked it. Obviously, contact wasn't made, but it certainly wasn't the time for Bortoletto to be released, because there was a car right in the pit lane coming his way. Andy Cowell, CEO, took over in October of Aston Martin, became team principal over the winter period. Mike Crack is now the head of trackside, the chief trackside officer for the team, and Andy taking over team principal duties. And while they were on for a points finish, and that accident has made it has taken them out of the top 10 down to Lance Stroll, the one remaining driver to try.
Intense rain shower. Could be like 1 lap of rain, class 2 to 3, somewhere between lap 45 and 50. Doesn't look like there's much beyond it.
Wow. They still haven't even got a vehicle anywhere near.
Well, I suppose they've been waiting, Martin, for the field to bunch up a little bit as well, and that lorry's been going. The Fernando's car's facing the wrong way. I was just thinking, is he going against the traffic? No, he hasn't.
No, but again, we don't like commercial vehicles on racetracks. But as I say, that's all you can do here. There's very few sort of service roads. Look how dark the sky looks over there in front of Lando. It's exactly the same view out of our comedy box. It is. It is very dark out there.
It certainly is. Now, you mentioned
Somewhere
this earlier,
between lap
Martin.
45 and lap 50, there may be 1 lap of rain up to class 2 to 3. That's all we can give you at the moment.
1 lap, class 2 to 3.
Yep.
And you're sure on the class 2 to 3, because that's
yes,
not ideal.
Not ideal.
And confident on the 1 lap only.
Class 2.
I would say, given everything that's happened in Melbourne so far, not confident.
Yeah.
Right, class 2 light rain, class 3 moderate rain or shower.
That'd be chaos if that hits. Sorry,
No.
that'd be chaos if that lot comes across the track.
No, not you at all, Martin. I just wanted to go back to that lorry being on the track at the same time, because the safety car, Bernd Mailander, cut the corner at turn 10, and Lando Norris is now driving alongside a lorry.
Yeah.
And that, I'm very surprised at.
Yeah, so am I. And Lando didn't want to go off into that runoff area because the chance of picking up a puncture in there are enormous. With all the racing, and you get a lot of debris in there and rubbish. So he did the right thing to stay on the racetrack and not follow. I mean, there is a situation, we've seen it earlier on, where you go through the pit lane, but you don't normally follow the safety car off the racetrack.
Yeah, see, it's a lot more grey already. So just confirming we're on a box before it's wet, not when it's wet.
Sure, we just don't want to box if it's going to skirt around us.
Yeah. That's an impossible call to make, isn't it? How do you know until it's here whether it's skirting around us or not?
Like what Lando's saying is there, do not leave me to do 3/4 of a lap tiptoeing around. Anticipate it and we'll handle it. It's a lot easier to handle a track that's a touch too dry for half a lap on inters than it is a track that's much too wet on slicks.
Ted, let's head down to you in the pit lane.
Well, the huge cloud that you can see, I think, Crofty, out of your commentary box window is actually just passing over the pit building at the moment. It's not dropping a load of rain on us just yet, but I don't know whether that's the one they were talking about. Will Joseph talking about coming in a few laps' time. I think he's looking at the radar there, but we will see. Yeah, otherwise, everybody's still circulating around the two Saubers, 12th and 13th. Pierre Gasly, P9, now unchallenged from Fernando Alonso's run. So Alonso was in the points, by the way. He was running P10. That's now been taken by Kimi Antonelli. But yeah, they say, Crofty, that you have 4 seasons in one day here in Melbourne. Well, they've all been horrible so far, those seasons.
As I said earlier, 4 seasons in one day. Welcome to winter. It's Karun to you, mate.
Tell you who's gambled. Haas stayed with intermediate tyres for both cars. So despite the track drying up, they have decided to stick with it. And if those 2 laps of rain come, because Ferrari think it's going to be 2 laps, not the one that Will Joseph has just told Lando Norris. So that could put Haas in a decent position. And it is, yeah, let's keep an eye on that, because this part of the track right now is quite dry.
Yeah.
We know why we're doing this, but I think if it doesn't rain in a couple of laps, they will be quicker than us with slicks.
Understood.
Yeah, then you'll pit, but the hope is that you've actually made up a lot of places, because that lap 45 estimate, bring that down to about lap 42, 43, because these laps behind the safety car are that much slower than we would get at racing speed. They're about a minute slower.
Yeah, but there's a low confidence in the forecast, isn't it? And then we're coastal too, aren't we? So it's anybody's guess. The golden rule, be on the right tyre at the right time, and intermediates are not the right tyre right now, unless it rains now.
The thing is, if you're Haas, you're right at the back,
yeah, why not?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. And I'm looking at the commentary box, just to our left, along the main straight. I wouldn't be putting my trunks on to go for a swim in the water, put it that way. I have to say, Martin, I'm kind of with you. There's been lorries and people standing by the side of the track in greasy, damp, slippery conditions where drivers have been sliding off without any warning at all. And I don't understand why we're still going around. No one wants to see races get red flag. We had 3 of them, didn't we, here in 2023? But you've got to put safety first on this one. And you haven't got the cranes, and we haven't here because there just isn't the room to put the cranes in by the side of the track. Then you've got to think about red flaggers,
so they'll let those lap cars through there, and they're just going to skirt around the track rather than across it.
Well, that's already big, I think.
So yeah, they will let the lap cars, or they should let the lap cars through, and then we will have Norris, Piastri and Verstappen nose to tail.
Karun Chandok, what are you looking at? Monitors, timing screens, clouds?
All of the above. I've got a better view of the clouds from the angle of race control of the commentary box. Brian Botsy's just told Charles Leclerc it looks like it might skirt around the south of the circuit and might only be a few drops in Sector 3. So Sector 3 is where, around turn 11, 12 is where we think it's going to hit first. So let's keep an eye on that.
Okay, we are clear of the wreckage of Fernando Alonso's crash. Just coming up at 5:30 in the morning in the UK. If you're just waking up and joining us for the opening race of this 2025 Formula One season, it's been eventful even before the lights went out. We lost Isaac Hadjar on the formation lap. We lost Jack Doohan once we got racing. We lost Carlos Sainz behind the safety car when it first came out. And we're out behind the safety car again because we lost Fernando Alonso.
The rain that was skirting around the track might actually come over the track. If it does, it would last longer than the one lap we said earlier and potentially arrive earlier.
So then it's better to go for the inter now, no?
Because if you went for the inter now, you'd be right at the back, because we're now letting lap cars overtake the safety car.
I still think they should make the lap cars drop to the back and get on with it.
Lando Norris started on pole and he's led this race. He survived one start.
Lando, we did not
a restart.
the wrong
now another one coming
before the conditions.
Especially with the pack all behind you, that's an absolute no-brainer.
Because you'd have to come in again to get rid of those inters because the rain wouldn't last that long. He's got his teammate Oscar Piastri right behind him. This is another little kerfuffle here as Norris locks up behind the safety car, and then he's got the Haas of Esteban Ocon who's trying to unlap himself.
Yeah, he'll get a bit of vibration from that, but it was low speed and he got off the brakes very quickly, but it's not optimum.
Right, unsafe release has been noted. Gabriel Portoletto into the path of Liam Lawson. What are they doing down at Haas? Ollie Behrman, who had got the intermediates on, has now got the medium compound tyre on. So they don't think that the rain is going to be heavy enough to warrant those intermediate tyres. And Esteban Ocon also came in to change those tyres. And Ollie Behrman, who's unlapped himself once, is going to have to go and do it all over again. Ted, to you.
I don't think so. I think...
Yeah, see?
Max will love all that, but I don't think they'll let him through because you let through if you were a lap car at a certain point, and clearly Behrman wasn't. Safety car is in this lap, and
but now
Max
Martin,
will be massively underwhelmed by that.
But he's going to have to get himself unlapped because
he can't.
Yeah, but he's in the middle of the battle for the top three, and the whole reason we have this rule is to get the back markers out of the way and to stop interfering at a restart with the battle out in front.
I know, but he's become lap because he did something else.
Yes, I agree.
So the point where they decide who can unlap themselves has long gone. So he's just come out in that position, and Max is going to be massively impressed with that.
Well, that could have taken Max Verstappen out of the race if he'd have got the waggle on Ollie Behrman and gone into the Red Bull. And he is unlapping himself. So he has been told to get out of the way, which is what we really want to see for better racing. But like yourself, why they can't just drop back through the field, the back markers in this, I'm not sure. And it used to be because of the FIA timing screens, which haven't changed in 20 years I've been commentating.
So, I don't think we've seen that situation before, to be honest, but he was one of the four who was told, Behrman, he was one of the four numbers who was told to unlap himself. But that was earlier on.
Exactly.
But, anyway, they've sorted it out. I'd imagine race director got on the blower and were like, get him out of there.
Yeah, please. Right, here we go again then. Norris, Piastri, Verstappen. Verstappen got past Piastri and then got overtaken again when his tyres went off. He's on the medium tyre. They should warm up quicker than the hard compound tyre. Greasy conditions. We're now on slick tyres and we're racing to the checkered flag once again. Lando Norris has done very well here to put a big gap between himself and Oscar Piastri. Verstappen is coming at the Australian. Then comes George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Yuki Tsunoda on the mediums, as is Alex Albon. Hamilton in 8th ahead of Gasly, and Antonelli on his debut for Mercedes, who's up into the points after Alonso's crash.
In DRS. Class 3 rain expected, lasting for 2 laps.
Class 3 is a lot.
Yes, this is what we see for the radar, but we'll have to wait for it.
This is going to be wild. Do not go anywhere. Lando confident out front, building a little bit of a gap. 4 minutes, we're expecting the rain, according to the screen there. And this is going to be very challenging for the drivers.
Certainly is. Alex Albon getting very interested with Yuki Tsunoda into turn 3, stays behind the Racing Bulls. Norris charging out in front. Piastri is starting to drop Verstappen just a little bit too, and George Russell is way back, detached in 4th place from Lando Norris, who leads this race. And then there's a whole gaggle of cars. Hamilton holding off Gasly, holding off Antonelli, who we've seen pulling in a couple of overtakes on Nico Hülkenberg so far in this race.
And once again, it's McLaren that have got the problem with 2 cars line astern and the stacking in the pits that Red Bull have not got.
DRS is now enabled, so when they go through the first detection zone, Max Verstappen will want to be a second at least behind Oscar Piastri. Albon on Tsunoda, can't make the move. Going into turn 1, Kimi Antonelli trying to stick to the back of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine in these early stages after the restarts. They're all behaving themselves currently. Tsunoda, though, under a lot of pressure from a very fast Williams. And Tsunoda holding Alex Albon
Seems like it'll be next lap now.
We don't want to jump too early, past half of pit lane.
Love that. All the computing power in the world, and Zach Brown's turned to the upturned palm to see if it's raining.
Last half, it's raining a little bit in the pit lane. Ted's down there.
And the wind has really picked up in the way, Martin, that it does before it rains. The gust front, they call it in the meteo world. But yeah, it's freezing down here.
Rain could get pretty intense.
They've just got to survive, haven't they? If it's going to red flag, intense enough to red flag, but you've got to survive. You can't stay out there on the slicks. You've got to go to one of the 2 rain tyres, haven't you, Crofty? Inter or full wet.
And it's going to make a big difference exactly where you are on the track when the rain hits. How far you are away from the pit lane, in other words.
5-second time penalty. Gabriel Bortoletto for an unsafe release. He's down in 13th. George Russell goes over the line. Behind him, Charles Leclerc. Now behind Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda up into 5th place. Leclerc has had a moment on this lap, and he's now under pressure from Alex Albon, with Lewis Hamilton behind him, pulling out in towards turn 3 as Tsunoda locks up. Leclerc was going for a move. Albon almost goes into the back of Charles Leclerc, and Hamilton is waiting to see if he can pounce and take an opportunity.
Fantastic pace from Norris out front.
Stay on the dry tyres. It will be heavy enough for Inter.
But if someone takes a gamble and does stay out, and if they survive, well, then they might just have an opportunity when others pit to move themselves back up the order. It's like that opening lap at Zandvoort a couple of years ago, as Tsunoda under pressure once again from Charles Leclerc, desperate to try and get past the Racing Bull, but there's no way through at turn 10. Out in front, nearly 2 seconds the gap between Norris and Piastri. Here goes Charles Leclerc down the inside. Tsunoda's seen that coming a mile off and going down to the gravel, and Lando Norris stays in the lead. Oscar Piastri comes back on in second and slides off into the grass. Verstappen takes 2nd place, and Oscar Piastri, spinning his rear wheels, could be out of his home Grand Prix. It's treacherously wet down in that final sector, and he's come a cropper. Oscar Piastri could be out. Verstappen now leads as Lando Norris pits, Russell pits, Hamilton goes through, Gasly goes through, and they managed to get Lando Norris out.
Piastri needs to put it in reverse, try and use it as a front-wheel drive car, reverse out of there. But if the underfloor is on the underfloors on the grass and taking all the weight of the car. He's managing to get it moving, we're hearing.
So he's reversing, he's done exactly what you suggested he needed to do. That is heartbreak for Oscar Piastri. The rain came and it caught him by surprise. He's gingerly going backwards to try and now find a bit of tarmac to get back in this race. Verstappen, still on the mediums, leads this race on the dry tyres, but the next time he comes around to the final sector, he's going to know just how slippy it is. The rain was coming, we didn't know when it was going to hit, and for McLaren it hit at just the wrong time. Oscar Piastri will get a huge roar. If he can get going, you can hear the roar in Albert Park. He has, but his race has been ruined.
Look how wet it is now. Max was smart there to just keep going, but will he have to tiptoe too much round to the pit lane, Verstappen? But what happened, unfortunately for Norris, he's out behind Verstappen's teammate. So they're telling him to stay out, saying stay out, try and live with it if the rain doesn't come any harder.
Well, that's the gamble, and McLaren have kind of made it easy for Verstappen to take that gamble. Piastri's got the intermediates on, and he's back out of the race, because all the time that they can make up, well, they're going to probably have to go back to slicks at some stage. Piastri comes out behind Charles Leclerc, but he is a lap down. And Lando Norris, who was leading this race, is now in 6th on the intermediate tyres, trying to make up time and get back up to the sharp end again. Here comes Piastri. You've got to feel for him, because
looks like the rain is coming here now. We need to make a decision.
Understood, Max. We will let you know.
Verstappen's lead over Lewis Hamilton is 9 seconds. Hamilton is up in a second. Gasly is up into third. Gasly in the rain in Sao Paulo finished third that day in the race that Max Verstappen won, of course, from 17th on the grid. Tsunoda moves up into fourth, Leclerc in fifth. They're all on slick tyres, and this is how treacherous it is, Martin, at turn 11.
It's not raining though, is it? I mean, he's tiptoeing around, but there's no rain on...
Oh, there is.
There is rain, yeah. Okay, so he's got to come in. He's got to pit.
Stay out, they say.
Wow.
Got to pit, but they're saying stay out. Ted Kravitz.
They're not. They've changed that. That's an old radio message. He's coming in. The intermediate tyres are out in the Red Bull pit lane for Max Verstappen. It's chucking it down now.
So how much time did Verstappen lose on that lap? We'll find out when he feeds back in. Will he be ahead of the McLaren? No, he won't.
No, he won't. Lando is now coming round turn 14, Martin. Lewis Hamilton will move into the lead on his debut for Ferrari. Hamilton stays on the slick tyre. Leclerc stays on the slick. Norris on the intermediates goes through. Tsunoda on the mediums goes through. There they are. Verstappen will come out in 5th ahead of George Russell in the Mercedes, who's on the intermediate tyres. Gasly's dropping down the order because he's pitting. Stroll moves up to the top line. Lawson's now in the points because he stayed on the dry tyres.
Yeah, leading the race.
Yeah, it's very slippy, mate. It's more rain coming down.
Bortoletto's... Sorry.
Yeah, Bortoletto's gone into the barriers, as has Liam Lawson. Lawson at turn 2, Bortoletto at turn 13, and they have both come to a standstill. Lando Norris back in the lead of this race. He's got past Lewis Hamilton on the intermediate tyres. He's now right behind his teammate. He's now right behind his teammate Oscar Piastri, who of course has been lapped. Lewis Hamilton could make, I was going to say, could he make a cheap pit stop? But he won't, Martin, not behind the safety car.
No, he'll go right to...
But I tell you what, by staying out and taking the gamble, Ferrari have absolutely aced a possibility of a double podium here.
Have they?
Well,
they're gonna go to the back of a pack, aren't they, when they pit, because others have already got the inters on.
Yeah, but do they need to pit? Behind the safety car, do they need to pit?
This is where they suddenly came across 3 corners from home, and they both went off the road. Lando hoovered it up. Oscar'd gone further off the road, and that's what put him in that position. And this is the bit where he tried to go forward initially. Yeah. So they both hit the rain shower at the same time. Just a different angle they turned up in the penultimate corner.
Ferrari are in the pit lane. Maybe it is just too wet for Hamilton and Leclerc to stay out. That's Leclerc behind Tsunoda when they were racing, and that is how Leclerc lost those places. Was spun around. Hamilton's into the pits. Verstappen takes over in second, Russell third. So his intermediate tyres on now for Lewis Hamilton. He is going to go to the back of the pack.
It's a horrible loss because the crocodile behind the safety car was... that's a gamble that has not worked for Ferrari in this part of the Grand Prix anyway.
But the trouble is they've taken the gamble. Hamilton was on the radio saying too dangerous to stay out on these tyres. But once you've taken the gamble, Martin, you are effectively admitting defeat and waving the white flag if you then come into the pits.
But I don't think they could keep it on the road, could they? So we've got a Mercedes third and another one in fifth place. Kimi Antonelli, Alex Albon for Williams in fourth. But, well, it was always going to be wild, that bit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was. And the rain just hit at exactly the wrong time. But do you know what? Through all the wild stuff, Lando Norris still leads this race. And his teammate Oscar Piastri continues the... is it a curse for Australian drivers at the home Grand Prix? Getting that way.
Yeah, I know. Their hearts will be totally sunk in the Piastri fans because, you know, it's clearly going to be a fight for the championship, isn't it? And but we've still got to get to the end of the race.
We certainly have. Antonelli up to fifth then. Lance Stroll, who by the way scored his best results of the season in the last 2 years here, is up to sixth. Hülkenberg up to seventh. Here's his teammate Gabriel Bortoleto. That's how he lost it.
Yeah, it's the same. It's sort of the rookie spin, isn't it? It's light the back up. You get a torque. You get some torque, and it anti-locks. That actually, hang on a minute.
Did that right rear come
Did that
loose?
break?
Yeah.
Did that break and send him off? Has he had a... You'd have to say that actually... Oh, that's exactly what happened to Hadjar, isn't it?
It is.
Before the start. Exactly what happened to him.
I tell you what, he very nearly collected Nico Hülkenberg there as well. Did Liam Lawson. We've lost Doohan, we lost Hadjar, we've lost Bortoleto, and we've lost Lawson. We've only got Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli as the rookies still going here, and Carlos Sainz also out. This is Lewis Hamilton on the dry tyres. He sees Yuki Tsunoda going off and then goes very deep himself. And that was the lap before he came into the pits.
They rolled the dice, but they're right at the back of the crocodile. Unfortunately, at the moment, the two forever. They've got Tsunoda behind them.
So he said it wasn't going to rain much. Just missed a big opportunity there.
Understood.
No position am I now? Back in
P9.
9 again.
Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so worst of both worlds for Ferrari, and if it is to make it even worse, when Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc head to turn one, above your commentary box, there's blue sky, Crofty. If they could have just survived on those dry tyres under the safety car, they should have. I think they should have stayed out. I mean, Leclerc's obviously frightened that he's going to have another spin.
Well, we're seeing a replay of it now, Ted.
I absolutely agree with you, Crofty.
There was a bit of contact, and then he saw the Alpine get squirmy, and then is that Tsunoda coming back at Charles Leclerc?
What it's worth, Tsunoda came in as well. Tsunoda did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but
tried to stick it out, and then came in for Inters, having been off, of course, himself.
In my mind, Martin, I know that's treacherous, yeah? And I know it's difficult, but these are the best drivers in the world. There you see Oscar Piastri on his intermediate tyres then getting past Leclerc. But once you've made that decision, you've got to think of the long game. And is the long game there?
Well, you've got to keep it on the track, haven't you? Because you go slower and slower, get less and less tyre temperature, go slower again, and in the end, you just skate off the road at ridiculously small speeds.
But we're getting to the end of a race. We've got 8 laps to go here. You're going to be behind the safety car for 4 or 5 laps while the track dries out and the rain that you know isn't lasting long has moved away. I know it's hindsight, but
Gone right at the right time. For a 19-second pit stop. It's just not worth. It wasn't worth the gamble, I don't think. But I don't think they'd have kept it on the track, Crofty. And then on the restart would have been horrific. On those tyres, absolutely horrific.
I suppose that's their problem. They weren't on the right tyre at the right time, and then compounded it by then switching to the right tyre at the wrong time. In terms of trying to get something out of this. Leclerc's down in 10th. Hamilton is in 9th. Verstappen, once again, right up there, behind Lando Norris. The thing this time, there's no Oscar Piastri.
No wingman is there for him.
Kimi Antonelli, 5th at the moment. Alex Albon currently 4th for Williams, being on the right tyre at the right time. He's had a solid race as Alex Albon, it has to be said. Nico Hülkenberg about to score big points for a Sauber team that came into this race not thinking that points were necessarily going to be theirs. Gasly in 8th, then ahead of the Ferraris of Hamilton and Leclerc. And are we thinking it's going to be intermediate tyres to the end of this race? Or is that dry line going to appear, and is it wet all the way around the track?
They won't pit now. They won't need to pit now. It's a straight fight, isn't it? Surely to the you wouldn't want to risk a pit stop, I don't think, in there unless it. Mind you, you can see some blue sky out there now. But you know, safety car is not showing us in this lap, is it? It might still do that yet, but. It's too late, isn't it? So, you know, there's only going to be 6 laps left. It'll be, the Inters will go that far.
Driver of the day, and I'm sure lots of people are voting. And bar this excursion into the gravel, Lando Norris has had the race in control. And his teammate has just been waiting there with him, and McLaren were thinking there's a 1-2 coming, but it's never over till it's over. And that 50th 1-2 finish will have to wait for another day, and that's how Charles Leclerc dropped it on the hard tyre. And this is the bit where,
cause or effect?
Backwards. Yeah, the car was going backwards and the wheel was trying to go forwards.
No, but I don't know. I don't know if it was cause or effect, the rear suspension braking.
Right, so here we go. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap as we see Liam Lawson hitting the barriers. Everyone is now on the lead lap, and Oscar Piastri has gone from 2nd to 13th, but he is right at the tail here.
He can nick some points from there, can't he, Oscar Piastri? Right, here we go. 6-lap shootout.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a sprint race. They're the rookie drivers for today, and they'll come back all the better for the experience, I'm sure. Isaac Hadjar, Jack Doohan, Gabriel Bortoletto and Liam Lawson, who had a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release, which might just carry now forward to China because he's out of this race. Ollie Behrman still running, and behind Oscar Piastri. And Kimi Antonelli, I think he's going to get rookie of the day. There's no doubting that one. Currently in 5th place, very much enjoying himself. And Alex Albon separating him and his Mercedes teammate George Russell. So as Bernd Maylander scampers off once again, here we go. Max Verstappen sticking as close as he can to the back of Lando Norris's McLaren. He can't overtake before the line. And I would imagine, given how wet and greasy it must be there, Lando will want to get around this final corner before he absolutely floors it, and that is exactly what he has done. While he's putting his foot down, Max Verstappen behind him is navigating the final turn, and Norris has got them underway, and we're racing to the checkered flag. Norris into turn 1, ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Russell. Then comes Alex Albon. Oh, and that looked tricky.
Norris has been very good on the restarts in terms of picking up his pace quickly, and there then is George Russell fancying a look at the back of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen.
Charles Leclerc has got past Lewis Hamilton, has moved up into 9th place. Oscar Piastri's got past Esteban Ocon and up into 12th. And he's getting very keen, George Russell, on the back here of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, so Verstappen doesn't have the advantage now of the softer tyre, of course, because they're all back onto the intermediates. They're not different slick tyres, but there's no doubt about it. That McLaren fires its tyres up quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, we said that Piastri was past Ocon. Ocon's returned the favour and retaken that 12th place as the cars make their way then through turn 10. It's Norris, clear advantage over Verstappen. Karun, down to you.
Yeah, Piastri actually passed Ocon before the line, Crofty, so you have to give the place back.
Ah, right, thank you very much. And this was the Ferrari swapping places. Lewis Hamilton once again getting a bit compromised going into turn 1, this time behind the Alpine, and Charles Leclerc picking up that one and just brushing the front wing as he moved past and up into 9th place.
A little welcome to Ferrari, wasn't it, from Charles to Lewis on that one. But there's Antonelli. Will they put the DRS back on
just
in these conditions? Probably in a lap or two. I suspect we'll see it before the end of the race anyway.
They could do it now if they wanted. They haven't. But they can after just one lap. But it's nothing that we're seeing.
I wouldn't be surprised to see it next lap, actually. The DRS re-enabled when the track conditions they don't look too treacherous now, do they?
Right, now he gave the place back. He's free to attack Esteban Ocon, which Oscar Piastri has done. And he's attacked Yuki Tsunoda as well. He's up into 11th, but he's now got a bit of a gap to Lewis Hamilton to try and make up. We're watching Charles Leclerc, Hamilton's Ferrari teammate, right on the gearbox of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine and approaching the faster part of the track. Still a bit of spray coming up. You can see it there. Visor full of it for Charles Leclerc. He moves to the outside. This is bravery and commitment, and they're separated by only inches as through turn 9 and into turn 10 we go. The Alpine staying ahead of Charles Leclerc, who just has to collect it a bit on the exit of the corner.
Oof, caught a bit of grass there as well. You heard the revs spin up, but choosing to keep those tyres a little bit cooler. And wow, anybody who gets to the end of this Grand Prix has done some kind of magnificent job. My goodness. Every single line, corner, piece of tarmac's a chance to crash.
And just to make matters even more difficult for the drivers, as you can see, we've got sunshine on a rainy day now. I hope they've got a bit of a tinted visor at some point on their crash helmet. They probably haven't, because that sun in the final couple of corners is not the best angle.
I'd like to see Antonelli.
Oh, there goes Gasly, and Charles Leclerc is going to say thank you very much and take a place. Eventually, he's going to have to drag this one out down towards turn 3. Hamilton goes around the outside of the Alpine. 2 Ferraris make up a place in one corner.
Antonelli is getting pretty feisty behind Albon as well for 4th and 5th. I wonder if he might have had a chance down into turn 3. We weren't watching him, but we were watching the Ferraris getting the job done.
Oscar Piastri on the fringes of the points. We can see Antonelli now as he makes his way through that fast section towards turn 9. Piastri right on the tail of Gasly and trying to get back into the points. He had 18 of them in the bag before the rain came. Pulls out to the right-hand side of Gasly. Is there enough of this straight for him to nose ahead just at the apex? Gasly is still ahead, and Piastri will have to tuck him behind. DRS is now enabled. So next lap through the detection points, you can get yourself to within a second and get the benefits.
Yeah, I think Oscar would be better just keeping it neat and tidy through 9 and 10 there and having a go into 11. But anyway, he's still in position, but he's still out of the World Championship points at the moment. And
his teammate is on course for 25 of them. He leads by a second and a half from Max Verstappen. Here comes Kimi Antonelli right on the back of Alex Albon, almost shoving the Williams through turn 2. What a battle this is. And Antonelli is not going to need a second opportunity to try and make a move, but he needs a couple more car lengths to try and make that move stick. Still Piastri on the tail of Pierre Gasly. He's a little bit closer. He's going to go for it. Dive down the inside into turn 3. Piastri at least is going to pick up a point today, but this is going to be a bitter disappointment in his home Grand Prix.
Absolutely. Norris would normally have got an extra point because he's got the fastest lap that nobody's going to beat from here on in, but that doesn't happen anymore.
And through we see into turn 1, the trip onto the grass and through the puddles that has cost Pierre Gasly 3 places and has taken him out of the points, and that on a day where his teammate crashed, that is also massive disappointment for Alpine in their fight in the midfield. It's been a day of learning for Lewis Hamilton, but his instincts still very keen, and if he sees a gap, it's there for him, and he moves up into 9th place. So Max has got DRS on Lando Norris here. Down the main straight we go to start lap 56. 2 laps to go here, and this is a battle all the way to the finish between the two drivers that most people, the smart money is on to be the big championship challengers for this year. They were last year, but Lando's and McLaren's starts gave him a bit of an uphill task to try and get back on terms with Max when Red Bull started to lose their way. Here in the rain, the great equaliser, Verstappen's been on his tail.
The pace is in the car, do not over push it.
Keep calm. Verstappen sliding his way through turn 7 and onto the curb.
So close into the final lap, isn't it? Verstappen's obviously thrown caution to the wind in these last couple of laps and just really taking it now to Lando Norris.
And he's going to try, is he? No, not into 9 and 10, but he's got DRS once again. Lando needs a good exit, needs to keep calm, and needs to make his way steadily towards turn 11 and keep a few car lengths in between himself and the Red Bull, which he does to preserve that lead. Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli from 4th has been noted for an unsafe release. Is there a penalty coming his way to ruin his debut day? And what a debut day it's been for him, and he's coped absolutely brilliantly with the conditions so far. Lando Norris has coped with everything that the rain and the track and the drivers have had to throw at him, and he starts his final lap, and Max Verstappen starts his final lap, and the two cars out in front are separated by half a second with 3 miles to go.
The back end of the Red Bull a little bit squirrely through turn 1 and 2, dropped him away a little bit. Sage advice to Lando Norris from his pit wall there of late. Don't make a mistake, you're fast enough anyway. Don't overdrive it, and that's exactly how he is at the moment.
He said, didn't he, Lando Norris, I learned a lot last year. I know what I need to do to beat Max Verstappen, and I'm sure keeping calm in the pressure cooker situation of leading a race with half a lap to go and Max on your tail was very much on his shopping list and things to tick off, and so far it's looking so good for Lando Norris. He has got another overtaking opportunity here to survive, and he does. Verstappen is there, and he is close by, and he's going to be pushing and using everything at his disposal to try and make a move down into turn 11. Norris in the lead, DRS slam shot on Verstappen's Red Bull. It's a 5-second penalty for Kimi Antonelli. That's going to cost him at least 1 place at the end of this race, because he's got past Alex Albon and up into 4th. But out in front, Lando Norris now sees the crowd standing for him. The Australian Grand Prix is going to be win number 1 in 2025 for Lando Norris. He picks up where he left off in Abu Dhabi. Norris wins, Verstappen second. What a thrilling race. George Russell comes home to finish on the podium ahead of his teammate Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli gets a 5-second penalty and will be classified behind Alex Albon. Lance Stroll picks up a really handy 6th place for Aston Martin. Hulkenberg a very handy 7th for Sauber. Disappointment for Ferrari, who gambled and it didn't pay off in the rain. Leclerc 8th. Piastri, who was in 2nd for so long in this race, finishes 9th ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 10th on his Ferrari debut.
Yeah, Piastri passed Hamilton on the last lap. That is one of the all-time great Formula 1 drives from Lando Norris there in the most challenging conditions, the restarts, and so much pressure.
P1, great job.
Oof. A little bit of pressure. Well done, boys. Beautifully handled, executed to the second, 1 second later, and we were done. So well done, everyone. Congrats, amazing way to start the year. Thank you so much.
And I don't disagree with you for a minute, Martin Brundle. That was a brilliant drive by Lando Norris today. But he went off at turn 11 with the rain coming down, and it could so easily have ended the same way that it did for his teammate Oscar Piastri. somehow he kept it.
Yeah, he didn't go as
less
far
onto
off
the
in the
grass,
first part, and so when he came back on, he was at a different angle to Piastri. Piastri passed Lewis Hamilton around the outside of turn 9. Watch this. Here we go. He's got the DRS, ducks to the right. Lewis tries to squeeze him to the wall. Piastri's having none of that.
Nice.
Lewis won't enjoy watching that.
That was very nice indeed. What a race, and what a breathless finish to this race as well. You know, never over till it's over. I mean, the rain wrecked a few racers race out there.
So Antonelli had passed Albon, hadn't he, for
Yes, he had.
fourth on the road, and that 5-second penalty cost him the place back for the unsafe release in the pit stop. Sadly for him, but still a tremendous drive from Antonelli in 5th, Albon 2. Nico Hülkenberg, he did go fast and not crash, as we talked about on the grid, in for 7th, and that'll be probably some, well, very welcome and slightly surprising points for that team.
Well, quite. We didn't mention George Russell much during the course of the race.
We didn't, did we?
But he kept himself handy, and he was there right at the end, and that is George Russell's best ever result in a season opening race, to finish 3rd on the road. Finished 3rd, of course, here in 2022 as well. The Salesforce driver of the day. He only got 20% of the vote, Lando Norris. There are a lot of very good drives out there.
Yeah.
But I do think that, for those that voted in it, that was a deserving win for 2 trophies for Lando Norris today.
Well, people will vote as they want to vote. I would definitely have voted for Lando in that race as driver of the day, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? People have got different opinions, but, you know, I'm sure a lot of people were thinking of Antonelli as a rookie up there in P5 and what have you.
So, you'll remember, Martin, the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix where Max Verstappen took over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. It's a lead he's held ever since until this moment. Lando Norris emerges from the cockpit of his McLaren, leading a Formula One championship for the first time in his career. Max is smiling as he shakes hands with the McLaren driver, and I think that's a significant statement to make at the start of this season, and one that Lando needed to make, winning a battle against Max to take that championship lead.
In these conditions, Max's conditions, and remember, I mean, the McLaren looked undrivable back in Brazil, didn't it, on that rainy day?
It did.
But the calmness with which Lando handled all the challenges of that day. Oscar, he drove beautifully, didn't he? But so unlucky with that.
His catching his teammate was just over a second behind him, and then came the what do I do with the rain. If he'd have pitted a lap earlier, then he wouldn't have gone off, but he might have lost places.
Yeah.
He would have had preferred strategy. McLaren don't do that for the guy in second place.
They were pushing so hard. That's why when they hit that rainy corner, they went off. And because that telegraphs a bit of information back to Max as well behind them.
Yeah, Max had to survive another lap on the dry tyres. Ferrari gambled and it didn't pay off, and then after inheriting the lead, Lewis Hamilton had to surrender it by pitting for the Inters, and there is the Norris family, mum and dad, here to congratulate their son. And this weekend has started exactly how he would have wanted it in terms of pole and win, and controlling the race when he could control it and the elements weren't all fighting against him.
That's a world champion level of victory, that one, no doubt about it.
There is a long, long way to go this season. McLaren say that they fixed a few things on their car that held them back in the rain in Sao Paulo. So Zach Brown there and Lando's manager waiting to have a chat. And the car looked in a dominant form, especially as the track started to dry.
Yeah.
Dropped the Red Bull of Max Verstappen quite quickly.
That was classic Max, wasn't it, at the end? It's like, right, grit my teeth, I'm coming after you.
Well, Helmut Marko smiling a bit for him. That's quite happy.
Yeah, it's a great drive. The McLaren's faster.
It is.
Simple as that, but
the fact that they finished second
yeah.
on this day will probably be something of a bonus to Red Bull. What won't be a bonus is that they finished second with one car and the other one crashed. Anyway, Jolyon Palmer is with George Russell.
George Russell, a podium to start the year. I'm exhausted having watched the race. How do you feel having driven that one?
Yeah, it was a great race to come home in P3, and I just want to say a massive well done to Lando. It's, I think in a race like that, when you're leading, it's probably your worst nightmare, but he did a great job, and also really well done to Kimi to come back to P5, which is a really impressive first race. But for us, you know, it wasn't our strongest weekend, but to end up on the podium, super happy, and yeah, let's see what we can do next week.
I mean, that looked like some of the toughest conditions I've ever seen. A crash before the start of the race, a delayed start, crashes under safety car. How do you keep it on the island in conditions like that?
Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. It was. I was quite enjoying it, to be honest, because I was hoping the two guys ahead would make a mistake and I could slip through, but that just didn't seem to be the case today. But really Tricky. But that's what F1's about, and that's made it exciting for us. And I hope everyone enjoyed it at home.
And the best start of the season the Mercedes have made since you've been at the team. Podium, you've got Kimi Antonelli, your young teammate, with you as well. It's got to be confidence boosting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, all things considered, it's been a really good weekend. We know McLaren are out in front at the moment, but this was a strong result.
Well done, George. Enjoy the podium.
Cheers, everybody.
Unbelievable race. So much going on to unpick through it, but let's start with the finale. Pressuring Lando all the way, somehow through it all. It's you two at the front again, and you've just missed out this time, but brilliant job, well done.
Yeah, it was a difficult race, of course, but at the end it was fun. I mean, of course, Lando had a little moment on entry of 6, so he lost a lot of momentum there. So that's why I got close, and then I got the DRS, so I got close, but it's very hard to pass around here. But it was fun, those last laps, you know, pushing, at least, you know, when you're fighting for the win. But I'm just very happy to bring it home, score good points. And this is, let's say, a decent starting point for us.
Talk us through the call to stay out on the slicks, because that looked like a split-second decision. One McLaren was off, one pitted, and suddenly you're in the lead of the race.
Yeah, I think that was also, you know, it started to rain a bit. They went off, so it was a bit like a panic, like, oh, I need to box. So they went in. I stayed out. The first time, honestly, I think it was all right. But then, unfortunately, yeah, the weather continued a little bit more on the other side of the track as well. And yeah, we then had to box. But I think at the end of the day, even if we would have boxed like one lap more, like earlier, we would have still been P2 anyway after that stop. So I think it was worth the gamble. You know, it was quite spicy out there with the slick tires.